I want to keep going on this fight with the universities that Trump is in the midst of, and I do think it is really important for a whole bunch of reasons. And that's why the administration is focused on it. That's why they'll continue to fight this out in the courts. I mentioned the first hour, an Obama-appointed judge in Boston, no surprise, has said Trump can't stop visas of foreign students going to Harvard. I have been following this issue for a long time. I think this goes in the category of why are we doing dumb things that no other country that is a smart country would do? And Trump comes along and asks that question and does something about it. And I will make that case to you. Now, we had a caller, and I appreciate the caller, bringing his perspective to this in Savannah, which he probably knows is a town that I just love that town. I love it so much that people I know who live there are like, I don't know if you'd love it as much if you lived here. I'm like, yes, I would. I love Savannah, Georgia. But big fan of the town or of the city. And here's what I would say. When we're talking about policy, there are always going to be anecdotes, individuals, situations where on a human level, on just a personal compassion level, you're going to say, oh, but what about this person? And like, this person's okay. I am not impugning any individual or, anyone who has come into the country necessarily as a foreign student. I have friends who are foreign students. Like, I get it, but we've got a problem, and the problem is not high school exchange students who come here and decide they love, Seinfeld, Coca-Cola, and Six Flags Great Adventure. Does Six Flags Great Adventure still exist? It does, right? Does it? Does it? I don't even know. I just remember as a kid seeing the commercials all the time. I was never really a theme park guy. It wasn't really not really my thing. I don't know. Clay's at a theme park, I think, today, so we'll get his review when he comes back from it. But on the foreign students issue, let me explain to you why I think this matters so much. Because there are many levels to this. First of all, on a just purely America first level, these are institutions that are great because of, and their greatness is in much more question now than it used to be, but these brands were built in this country by this country. I feel a little bit the way about this, the way I do with Silicon Valley and the hubris and the just unbelievable disdain that some of those companies show the country. That is the only reason they had the ability to do what they have done. This stuff isn't happening in Europe, everybody. And the stuff that's happening in China, a lot of it is actually stolen from us. That's a whole other part of the conversation we're about to get into. But this is, and what I mean by that is this isn't Obama, you didn't build that. It is because of our free market, which is backed. Well, we just had Memorial Day. We only have our freedom and our free markets because Americans died for it for centuries. Okay. That's why we have the thing we have, because there were our fellow Americans who were willing to give their lives to protect this very special thing that is America, which is, for all of its flaws, and it doesn't have that. I mean, the flaws are overblown by the left, of course, but for whatever flaws it has, the greatest, wealthiest, and most powerful country in the history of known existence. That's quite a thing to say, but that is true. So there's something very special and unique about America that is worth protecting, because it also protects whatever freedoms exist in the rest of the world, whatever. That changes a lot. If China becomes the hegemon, trust me, people in Edinburgh and Rio de Janeiro, they're going to feel it, and not in a good way. So this is what we have to remember. There are bigger issues and bigger forces at work here. And if America first is to be taken seriously, Americans should get overwhelming preference and priority at American universities. Overwhelming preference and priority at America. Start with that. I know some of these numbers. Do you want to know what the number of foreign students is at MIT, which is one of the most revered, math and science universities in the country, maybe the most sort of famous and revered. That Caltech, there's a few of them. 30%, 30% foreign. Really, Harvard, 30% foreign. This is outrageous. I mean, as far as this is crazy. These places are only able to exist and charge the exorbitant tuitions that they currently do because they are backstopped. The loans are backstopped by the federal government. They have all these programs they talk about. When was the last, what would be interesting? When was the last time that one of these universities came out and did something, like invented something really important based on the federal dollars? Or we're hearing a lot of this, what about the research programs? Okay, Harvard, in the last 10 years, what's come out of your research programs that has benefited the American people? Like, what incredible. By the way, maybe there are good answers to that. I just want to hear them. But I don't want to hear, we did the study on critical race theory. And, and that's what they usually do. What is this money actually going to? I think that's a fair question in and of itself. But if you're going to take tax dollars, which means you and me, we are on the hook for this. This is taxpayer money. And then you're going to take a third of your students from countries all over the world. So that's the broader America First component of this, which is we should have an America First university system. Of course. And you want to say, well, Buck, what does that mean? And to our caller before, who's like, well, what about the people who come here and they like America? And I'm not discounting that. I'm not disparaging that point of view. I'm just saying, okay, yeah, as a country, there should be a cap on this. Maybe it's 10%, maybe it's 5%. And I mean, really just the best of the best. What these schools currently do is they jack up tuition. So, now it's like basically 70 grand at most of these private, I think it's, high 60s or something a year. So it's $250,000 to send your kid to, Johns Hopkins or something. I think Johns Hopkins gets the most money of any university, I might add, from the federal government. A lot of that probably goes toward really good medical stuff. And I understand that, but these places should all be telling us, hey, here's what we're doing. Now is the time to make your case. Because I think there's a lot of stuff going on at Harvard with those dollars that you'd say, what? Why is this happening? Like, who cares about this? Isn't benefiting the American people or in any way a worthy expenditure of the U.S. government. So that's the America First means Americans get priorities in American universities and colleges, full stop. And priority is not 30%. I'm sorry. And, some of you might even say it should be if they can't fill the slots with Americans. That would be that's probably a true America First. But, I'm a reasonable guy. I'm a reasonable fellow. So maybe we go, 10%, 5%, 30% is too much. Full stop. This is insane. Okay. This should not be happening. And it is. And it's these elite universities in particular. And it's because they charge the foreign students. They don't get, I don't think they get financial aid. I forget all this stuff works now. But so they pay full freight. So they pay the outrageous tuitions. And then you have, middle class families, particularly if they're middle class white families, they have to deal with the reverse discrimination or just discrimination against their sons and daughters to get into these places. And I might add Asians too, Asians and whites, reverse discrimination. That's what the Supreme Court found. This is, we shouldn't feel uncomfortable talking about this. That is what has happened. It was harder for me to get into Amherst. And if I was Asian American, it would have been harder for me to get into Amherst then, that was 20 years ago, more than that now, I'm old, than it was for a black or a Latino student. That's just a fact. Just a fact. I had to have different grades, different boards, SATs. That's the truth. And play that out tens of millions of times across the country over the last couple of decades. That's what these schools have done. And that's just on the America First principle part of this. The other part of this is, guys, we can't be trained. And this is where you get more into China. I'm less concerned about having, foreign students here from France. Maybe I want to bum a Gauloise and talk about baguettes. I'm less worried about France. China's a problem for us. Notice I'm not singling out Japan. I have less of an issue with Japanese university students coming here. I don't have any issue. I mean, I like Japanese people. They're great. Japan is an ally, and we don't suffer. Now, every country, I'm not doing the babe in the woods routine here. Like, every country is actually an espionage threat to the United States, something when you're in the CIA. We get a little too, some of our very close allies have been involved in very egregious espionage against the United States in living memory. So I get it, but we are grading the threats here. And Japan, way different ball game for those, let's say, that 10% of students that I would say, okay, you can be foreign. Way different ball game than dealing with students from China. I'm sorry. China is a direct competitor and a threat to the future of a world with America as its leader, which is good for the whole world. China as the world leader is bad for the world. China as a modern state was founded by possibly the worst person in history, Mao Zedong. I really mean that. Way worse numbers than Stalin or Hitler. Way worse numbers, not even close in terms of people killed and killed in the worst imaginable ways and huge numbers. And I think that Mao may be the worst person who has ever lived. My friend Michael Malice argued with me recently. He said, well, what about Pol Pot? Higher percentage killed in Cambodia. I'm like, yeah, but the numbers are way smaller. So, you're talking about the most evil people in all of human history. And the founder of modern China is one of the most evil people to have ever lived. And that is just the truth. I don't think I'm going to get a Beijing visa. I've already been to China, so I don't think they're going to give me a visa anytime soon. I'm not worried about it. But you say, well, Buck, why do you care so much? Not just me. Why does the Trump administration care about these foreign students that want to go to places like Harvard or MIT? And, well, when you look at the things that you can study at MIT, and you look at the things like the MIT Lincoln Laboratory, key areas: air, missile, and maritime defense technology, developing systems to protect against various threats from the air, sea, missiles, biotechnology, and human systems, kind of like what they would call I'm not saying they're doing gain of function at MIT, but, stuff like virus research. I mean, stuff like high level biotech. I mean, that's going on there. ISR systems, space systems. These are of study that the government is paying for research to be done at a place like MIT. And we're inviting foreign students to, I know they'd say, oh, but they're not cleared for some of these. Oh yeah, I'm sure the security protocols at these universities, which are full of lunatic communists anyway, and the administrative staff and the faculty, I'm sure they're really tight on all this stuff. And there's no why do you think the Chinese love sending their university students here so much? There's people who have known about these national security threats for years have been trying to ring the alarm bell, but this is a big problem. We can't even begin to keep up with all the penetration risks from the Chinese Communist Party on our campus. And that's not even taken into account. I haven't even gotten into all the anti-Semitism. I haven't even gotten to the Middle East funds going into all these schools and how that's shaping policy. But America first, that means the interests of American students, and that means the national security and economic interests, current and future, of the American polity. That has to be taken into account by these universities, or they lose federal funding. It's the right move. They should be able to lose. I mean, this is not going to be a fight, but foreigners entering the country or not is the executive branch. The executive branch has a lot of discretion in this. And if we think that too many Chinese students are espionage threats and risks to American universities, guess what? The Trump administration should be able to say no. So this is, like I said, a very big deal. And I'm very happy to see that Trump and his team are on it. And I want to hear what you think about this. What did you agree with me? Should it be 10%, 5%? Should we cut down the numbers? And when you say, okay, yeah, they're private institutions, fine. If you don't do this, you lose your federal funding. Just like PBS, if you don't need it, why do you cry about it? Owning gold used to be something thought of just for the very wealthy, or at least that was a perception that's out there. Actually, all throughout history, people who are smart and have access to gold, no, it is the ultimate store of value in human history. That is just the way it is. And it wasn't always easy to get, right? Unless you're going to mine it yourself or go out there and pan for it in a river somewhere, right? But today it is easy, thanks to Birch Gold Group. They make it possible to own gold, not just physical gold, which is what I got recently from Birch Gold Group, but you can have gold as part of your 401k or IRA. You can easily own gold you can hold in your hand and store in a safe place, or you can transition that old 401k or IRA into an IRA or 401k in gold, and that's a set it and forget it plan, because look at the price of gold over the last 10 years. Look at the price of gold over the last 30 years. You look on a graph yourself, and you'll say, oh, yeah, More printing, more printing, more printing. Gold is worth more. So this is a strategy that makes sense. I purchased gold myself years ago. Mine's up more than 160% in value. I've owned gold for over a decade. I want you to check out my friends at Birch Gold Group. This is who I think you should work with for your gold needs. Text my name, Buck, to 989898. Birch Gold will send you a free info kit on gold. There's no obligation, only useful information. Text my name, Buck, to 989898 or go online to birchgold.com/Buck. That's birchgold.com/Buck.